In the year 2134, a quiet hum filled the Arctic silence, where the world's most advanced listening station stood on the edge of civilization. Deep in the ice, an array of antennas reached toward the sky, like silent sentinels waiting for something they did not yet understand. The station had been built for one purpose: to listen for signals from the stars. The search for alien life was a decades-old quest, and humanity's best minds were determined to hear it when it arrived, but they weren't ready for what came next. It started as a strange static, a whisper lost in the cosmic noise, something barely noticeable, but it was there, and the equipment recognized it immediately. The faint signal was repeated again and again, like a pulse traveling through the void. The scientists at the station blinked at their screens in confusion. Was this just another anomaly, something the system couldn't quite filter out? But the pattern was unmistakable, the same signal over and over at exact intervals. Someone was trying to make contact. The first instinct was to dismiss it. The signal could have come from anything, and Earth had received unexplained bursts of energy. Before they called in the best minds, the brightest physicists, mathematicians, and linguists all poured over the data, trying to make sense of the noise. Hours turned into days. But soon enough the team realized the impossible had happened. The signal was not just random, it was structured. It was a message, a deliberate communication, from somewhere out in the vastness of space. The message took days to decode, but when the first few words became clear, the team sat in stunned silence. What they had uncovered was a declaration from the Galactic Empire, a coalition of alien species whose power stretched across the stars. The words were simple and direct. They introduced themselves as rulers of a vast galactic civilization and issued an invitation for Earth to join their empire. They spoke of peace, of unity, of technology, far beyond anything humanity could imagine. But there was something chilling beneath the surface, a hidden ultimatum. It didn't take long for the message to be relayed to Earth's leaders. The world was thrown into chaos as governments scrambled to understand the implications. The news spread like wildfire across the globe, and within hours, the message was all anyone could talk about. The Empire promised knowledge, technology, resources beyond comprehension, but the price was unclear. What would Earth have to give in exchange for such a deal? Could humanity survive in a galaxy filled with such power? Were they truly ready to meet the Empire face to face? The governments of the world convened in a historic meeting, but there was little agreement on how to respond. Some argued for immediate submission, believing that resistance was futile. Others wanted to fight, even though no one truly knew what they were up against. The factions in Earth's leadership bickered over the next steps, while the citizens of Earth waited anxiously, watching their leaders debate the fate of their species. Then, as if on cue, the unimaginable happened. The fleet arrived. It came suddenly, and without warning, the sky above Earth became filled with the shadows of ships, massive beyond comprehension, their size and scale beyond anything humanity had ever seen. The Earth's observers stared in disbelief as the ships hung in orbit, like an invasion fleet poised for war. The Galactic Empire had arrived, and humanity was about to learn that the universe was far bigger and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The first sight of the Empire's fleet was nothing short of apocalyptic. From every corner of the Earth, people looked to the skies in fear and awe. The stars themselves seemed to vanish as millions of alien ships blocked out the sun. Their metal hulls gleamed like vast monoliths in the cold dark of space. The ships came in formation, a perfect and terrifying arrangement, like a cosmic chessboard that stretched beyond the horizon. Humanity had never seen anything like it, and the sheer scale of it left the world breathless. The moment the first of the ships broke through the atmosphere was the moment Earth realized this was no drill, no political posturing, no bluff. These were not visitors or allies. These were conquerors, and the people of Earth had been marked for attention. The ships hovered over major cities, their massive shadows casting an eerie gloom across the land. The lights of civilization flickered in the presence of something far greater than anything mankind had ever imagined. The first transmission from the fleet came through moments later, sharp and crisp. The voice that spoke was smooth and cold, as if addressing an audience of lesser beings. It introduced itself as the voice of the Galactic Empire and declared the arrival of the imperial delegation. The speaker was an alien whose appearance was beyond strange to human eyes. Its face was angular and long with dark glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen. It spoke with an air of supreme confidence, the kind that comes from centuries of conquest. "We come from the Galactic Empire," the voice echoed. "We are the rulers of 1,000 worlds, and the keepers of knowledge beyond your comprehension. Earth has been observed and evaluated. You are invited to join our empire or face extinction, for your species has no place in this universe as anything but a tool for the empire's benefit." The words were chilling. The tone was as cold as the stars themselves. The people of Earth watched in horror as the message broadcasted across every screen, across every device. The weight of the words hung in the air. Like a dark cloud, the Empire offered knowledge and technology beyond human comprehension, yet the price was steep. Humanity had been reduced to a mere commodity in the eyes of this vast empire. As soon as the transmission ended, another ship descended into Earth's atmosphere, this one larger than any other. It landed in the center of New York City with a thunderous shockwave that sent ripples through the streets. The city trembled and gasped in unison as the people waited for what would come next. The doors of the ship opened slowly, revealing a delegation of aliens, tall and imposing, their bodies encased in sleek silver armor, their movements deliberate and measured as they disembarked. They stood in perfect formation, as if designed to instill fear and awe simultaneously. The leader of the delegation stepped forward, its voice booming with authority. "We are the emissaries of the Galactic Empire," it said. "Your world has been chosen for integration into our vast collective civilization. You will submit to our rule and become part of something far greater than your planet's fractured history ever allowed you to dream." The people on Earth reacted in different ways. Some stared in disbelief, others trembled in fear, but most stood silent, unsure of how to react. The overwhelming presence of the aliens was impossible to ignore. They were not here to negotiate, they were here to conquer. Humanity had been thrust onto the stage of galactic politics, whether they were ready or not, and now Earth was faced with an impossible decision. Would they submit to the Empire's demands and join the vast galactic machine, or would they stand up and defy an empire that had crushed countless civilizations before them? Humanity's future hung in the balance as the skies above Earth grew darker and the first steps toward their inevitable fate began to unfold. The shock of the Empire's arrival rippled across the globe, leaving the planet stunned and shaken. Yet in the midst of the terror, something unexpected began to stir, a defiance that echoed in every corner of Earth. Across the world, leaders and citizens alike came to one conclusion: humanity was not ready to kneel. Not now. Not ever. In the grand halls of the United Nations, a tense silence filled the air as representatives from every nation convened. The situation was dire. How could the planet defend itself against an empire whose ships alone could obliterate cities with a thought? Yet despite the overwhelming odds, there was a sense of unity in the room. There was no time for divisions, no time for bickering over borders or policies. The Empire had forced humanity into a single position: survival. "We are not cattle," declared General Elizabeth Cheng, the newly appointed leader of Earth's Global Defense Council. Her voice rang out with unwavering conviction. "We will not be a cog in someone else's machine. They may have the power to crush us, but they don't understand the will of humanity." Her words resonated through the chamber, and the world watched as Earth's leaders found common ground. There was no longer talk of submission, no more calls for surrender. The message was clear: Earth would fight. The response was swift. Earth's militaries, scattered and disjointed before, now began to coordinate. Every country's arsenal was mobilized in a frenzy of activity. Satellites, once used for communication and research, were converted into weapons of war. Hidden military bases across the world came to life, churning out fighter ships and defensive technologies at a pace no one thought possible. The goal was simple: hold off the Empire long enough to make them realize that humanity would not be crushed so easily. But it wasn't just Earth's armies that took up arms. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in the size of their fleets, but in their creativity. Across the planet, engineers, Inventors, hackers, and civilians worked in the shadows to develop technologies that could stand up to the invaders. Reverse-engineered alien technology from downed ships began to take shape, and small guerrilla groups formed to steal vital pieces of the Empire's equipment. They hacked their transmissions, sabotaged their communications, and discovered vulnerabilities that no one had anticipated. The citizens of Earth, once divided by their many differences, now stood as one, facing a common enemy. The war was not just being fought by generals and soldiers, but by every human who refused to surrender. Artists and scientists alike joined the fight, using their skills to craft weapons, build fortresses, and spread propaganda. Even the poorest of nations, those with no military power, found ways to resist. As the first few weeks passed, the Empire grew impatient. They could not fathom why humans were resisting. To them, Earth's technology was primitive, the people unremarkable, and their chances of defeating the Empire non-existent. The Empire had conquered countless worlds, many far more advanced than Earth, yet this tiny blue planet refused to bow. On Earth's side, the first successful strike came from an unexpected quarter. A small fleet of human-made ships, cobbled together from spare parts, launched a surprise attack on one of the Empire's scouting vessels. The battle was chaotic, uneven, and sloppy, but it was enough. The scout ship, though heavily damaged, was sent spiraling into the sun. It was a tiny victory, but it was enough to send ripples across the galaxy. The Empire was no longer certain about their mission. This planet, this species, was not what they had assumed. Humans weren't meek and submissive. They weren't just creatures to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species capable of fighting back. As Earth's leaders continued to organize their forces, the Galactic Empire began to realize they had underestimated the spirit of humanity. The defiance that once seemed like a fleeting moment now looked like a challenge they couldn't ignore. The humans had no intention of falling in line. No, they would carve their own path, even if it meant defying the most powerful empire in the universe. And as the world prepared for what was to come, one thing became certain. Earth was not going to be forgotten. The Empire had awoken a force they couldn't easily quell. As Earth's resistance grew, so did the tension in the skies above. The Empire, once confident in its overwhelming might, began to realize the situation was more complicated than they had anticipated. Humans, despite their lack of advanced technology, had a stubbornness that couldn't be ignored. Their creativity, resourcefulness, and unyielding will to survive were proving to be a much larger obstacle than the Empire had predicted. The first true clash between the forces of Earth and the Galactic Empire came when the Empire deployed a full-scale scout force to eliminate the resistance. The fleet consisted of dozens of ships, each far superior in firepower and technology to anything humanity had, yet the humans had something the Empire lacked: desperation and ingenuity. In response, Earth's fledgling fleet, a patchwork of civilian ships, military surplus, and stolen Empire technology, launched a daring raid on one of the Empire's smaller command vessels that was stationed above the Atlantic Ocean. Earth's forces were vastly outmatched, but they had learned to fight on their own terms, using the terrain and their limited resources to their advantage. The battle was fierce. Human pilots, untrained but driven by the instinct to protect their homes, fought with a tenacity that rattled the Empire's seasoned soldiers. Ships made from repurposed materials were fast and unpredictable, evading the Empire's more advanced craft with hit-and-run tactics. The small human fleet used the moon's shadow as cover, launching surprise attacks and taking out key components of the Empire's command ship. The Empire responded with ruthless efficiency, deploying massive energy weapons that devastated Earth's small fleet. But the humans kept coming, launching a relentless series of attacks, using every trick they could muster. They adapted quickly, learning to exploit the Empire's weaknesses, attacking from angles the Empire's ships weren't designed to defend against. During the height of the battle, a particularly daring human fighter, piloted by a young engineer named Rachel Valen, managed to infiltrate the Empire's flagship, slipping past their defenses and planting a device she had built herself. A simple, crude EMP bomb. The explosion took down the flagship's primary communications array, sending the entire fleet into chaos. For a few crucial hours, the Empire's ships were cut off from their orders, and Earth's forces seized the opportunity to deal a significant blow. The humans weren't without losses. Rachel's ship was destroyed in the aftermath, and many of Earth's ships were crippled or destroyed. But they had proven a critical point. The Galactic Empire, a force so vast it once thought itself invincible, had been humbled. A species they deemed weak, primitive, and insignificant had successfully struck back, and not just in small skirmishes, but in a direct confrontation that made the Empire pause. Back on Earth, the victory sent shockwaves of hope throughout the planet. The news of the Empire's fleet being temporarily disabled spread like wildfire, reinvigorating the human resistance. People who had once doubted humanity's ability to stand against the Empire now believed it was possible. Cities erupted in celebrations, but there was no time to bask in triumph. Every moment was a countdown to the inevitable retaliation that the Empire would unleash. The Empire, however, was not as quick to retaliate as expected. The blow to their pride, the defeat at the hands of a species they saw as inconsequential, was a wound that went deeper than anticipated. The Empire's military commanders were forced to reassess their strategy, but one thing became clear. Humanity had taken the first step toward proving that they would not go down quietly. The Empire, now aware of the threat Earth posed, would come back with everything they had. But Earth, battered and bruised, had already tasted the thrill of victory, and it had only just begun. The first clash had proven one undeniable truth: the Galactic Empire, for all its power and advanced technology, had underestimated humanity's resilience. Earth's small fleet, though battered, had struck fear into the heart of the Empire. The defeat had shaken their confidence, but it also ignited something in humanity that could not be extinguished: a burning drive to survive, to fight, and to win. Back on Earth, the news of the victory over the Empire's forces spread like wildfire, filling people with a renewed sense of hope. Governments, once fractured and unsure, now united with a common purpose. The Global Defense Council ramped up efforts, rallying civilians, scientists, and engineers to the cause. Every corner of the Earth, from the bustling cities to remote villages, began to contribute in ways never seen before. Humanity had been thrust into a war for survival, and it had no choice but to rise to the occasion. World leaders called for every possible resource to be diverted to the war effort. The industrial complexes that once manufactured consumer goods shifted their focus, churning out weapons, starships, and defensive systems at a breakneck pace. Earth's manufacturing capabilities, once thought to be primitive by the Empire's standards, now became a vital advantage. While the Empire's technology was sophisticated and vast, humanity's ingenuity gave them the ability to adapt rapidly. Within weeks, humans had reverse-engineered enough Empire tech to build ships that were faster, more nimble, and more capable of avoiding the Empire's devastating firepower. The advanced weapons that had been developed from salvaged alien technology were paired with creative human strategies that made Earth's fleet unpredictable. Guerrilla tactics that made use of the solar system's terrain, using the asteroid belt as a hiding place, launching surprise attacks from the moon's dark side, became a hallmark of human warfare. Engineers and hackers, once focused on peace and progress, turned their skills to the war effort. They created advanced shielding systems for ships, built cloaking devices that allowed humanity's forces to strike without warning, and developed weapons that could disrupt the Empire's superior shields. The most important innovation, however, came in the form of advanced AI-driven battle strategies, computers that could analyze every possible move in a battle, predict enemy tactics, and suggest counterattacks in real time. These systems, paired with the flexibility of human decision-making, allowed Earth's fleet to hold its own against the Empire's might. As Earth's fleet began to grow in strength, The Empire's leaders started to feel the pressure. For the first time, they were faced with a true adversary, a species that refused to bow down, a species that adapted and innovated faster than they had anticipated. Earth's fighters, no longer limited to their original, makeshift ships, began to strike at the heart of the Empire's operations. Space stations once thought impenetrable were sabotaged and destroyed. Convoys carrying vital resources to the Empire's front lines were ambushed and destroyed. The small victories soon turned into a string of successes. Earth's fleet, now a formidable force in its own right, began to push the Empire's forces back. What had started as a desperate battle for survival was now a battle for dominance. The tables had turned. Humanity, once on the brink of annihilation, was now forcing the Empire to reconsider its approach. Earth's tactical brilliance was beginning to overwhelm the Empire's sheer power. In a moment that would go down in history, Earth's forces, united and strengthened by their shared purpose, launched a daring raid on an Empire-controlled spaceport in the outer rim of the solar system. This mission, led by General Cheng and a small fleet of Earth's finest pilots, was a resounding success. The Empire's critical supply lines were severed, and their command structure was thrown into disarray. It was a turning point in the war, one that shook the Empire to its core. The Galactic Empire, though vast and seemingly invincible, had never faced an adversary like this. Earth's fighting spirit, its ability to adapt, to innovate, and to never give up, had taken the Empire by surprise. The war was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that humanity would not be wiped out by the Empire's cold, calculated rule. Earth had entered the fight not just as a desperate species hoping for survival, but as a true contender in the galaxy's fight for freedom. The Empire, for the first time, was beginning to realize that the Earthlings would not go quietly into the night. The Empire, shaken by Earth's unexpected resilience, was slow to acknowledge the depth of the challenge humanity now posed. But as the weeks turned into months, the realization became undeniable. Earth was not just resisting. It was fighting back with an intensity that even their vast military might could not suppress. The Empire, accustomed to crushing civilizations that dared defy them, found itself locked in a conflict unlike any other. In response to the growing threat, the Emperor of the Galactic Empire, a cold and calculating figure known only as Stylar, issued a command that would change the course of the war. A new fleet, the Imperial Vanguard, was assembled. A collection of the Empire's most advanced warships, the pride of their armada. These ships were equipped with new technologies, devastating energy cannons capable of annihilating entire cities with a single strike, weapons of mass destruction unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The Empire's engineers had worked tirelessly to ensure that this fleet would be the end of Earth's defiance. As the Imperial Vanguard made its way toward the solar system, the mood on Earth shifted. The early victories, the small successes, had fueled hope, but now the full weight of the Empire's power was bearing down on them. Earth's forces, while growing stronger, were still vastly outmatched in terms of raw firepower. It was clear that the time for clever tactics and guerrilla strikes was running out. The humans had taken the Empire by surprise, but now they were faced with an enemy that was coming for them with everything it had. The first indication of the Empire's arrival came as a pulse of energy rippled through the solar system, overwhelming human sensors. The Vanguard fleet, a swarm of colossal warships, appeared at the edge of Earth's orbit, blocking out the stars like a storm on the horizon. They were enormous, dwarfing anything humanity had ever constructed. Their weapons, gleaming with a deadly promise, were primed for destruction. General Cheng, standing in the war room with her top commanders, knew that this was the moment of truth. Earth's fleet, now united and strong, had to make its stand. But against such overwhelming power, the question was not whether they could win. It was whether they could survive long enough to force the Empire to acknowledge their strength. "We can't let them breach Earth," Cheng said, her voice calm but filled with determination. "We fight here. We fight now. We will show them that we will never be slaves." The plan was risky, almost suicidal. Earth's fleet would engage the Empire head-on, holding off the vanguard long enough to give the civilians on Earth time to evacuate to the underground bunkers. The goal was simple: delay the Empire, buy time for Earth's last chance. The battle began with a fury that shook the very core of Earth. The vanguard's superior firepower lit up the sky, blasting apart entire sections of the human fleet in mere seconds. The shockwaves from the explosions rippled through space, and debris from shattered ships rained down on Earth. Humanity's forces, though vastly outgunned, fought with desperation and fury, launching everything they had at the Empire's ships. It was a brutal and bloody conflict. Earth's nimble ships darted in and out of the Empire's defenses, striking at weak points in the vanguard's armor. But despite their best efforts, the humans were losing. The Empire's ships were simply too powerful, their weapons too destructive. Earth's fleet was being decimated, and Chang knew that time was running out. But then, in the midst of the chaos, something extraordinary happened. A fleet of smaller human ships, using the asteroid belt as cover, emerged from the shadows. They had been hidden from the Empire's sensors, lying in wait for the right moment. The reinforcements, led by Rachel Valen's surviving comrades, launched a surprise attack on the Empire's command ship. The Empire's command ship, though powerful, was not invulnerable. The human strike force used everything they had: guerrilla tactics, their new tech, and their sheer willpower to breach its defenses. In a daring maneuver, they struck at the heart of the ship, disabling its communications and weapons systems. The vanguard fleet, now without leadership, fell into disarray. Earth's forces, though battered and bruised, managed to press the attack, landing a devastating blow against the Empire's flagship. For the first time since the conflict began, the Empire's forces faltered. The vanguard fleet, which had once seemed unstoppable, was now crippled. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had forced the Empire's most advanced fleet into retreat. The Empire, though still vast and terrifying, had been dealt a blow that would take years to recover from. But despite the victory, the war was far from over. The Empire would not forgive such a defeat easily. Earth had earned the respect of the Empire, but also its wrath. The battle was a turning point, but it was only one chapter in a much larger war. The fight for Earth's freedom had just begun. The retreat of the Imperial vanguard fleet marked a pivotal moment in the war, a brief but decisive victory for humanity. But while the Empire's forces had been humbled, they had not been destroyed. The retreat was tactical, a regrouping of their shattered strength, and everyone knew that the Empire would return with even greater force. The humans had won a battle, but the war was far from over. On Earth, the mood was a strange mix of triumph and apprehension. People celebrated the temporary victory, but there was no illusion that the Empire was finished. The attack had shaken the Empire's command structure, leaving them reeling from the unexpected blow. But in the quiet corners of the Earth, there were whispers of the next phase, one that would require even more sacrifice and a deeper resolve. General Cheng, knowing the hard truth, convened a council of Earth's leaders, military strategists, and scientists. The Empire had retreated, but it would not forget the humiliation. They would return, and Earth would need to be ready. "We've bought ourselves some time," Cheng said, her voice stern, "but they won't give up. Our victory was a message to them. We can hurt them. We can make them bleed. And now, they'll come for us with everything they've got." The world's united forces scrambled to rebuild their defenses. The technology gained from the Empire's ships, although revolutionary, was not enough to match the overwhelming strength of their fleets. Earth needed more. The humans had learned the importance of staying unpredictable, adapting faster than their enemy could respond, and they would need to innovate even more in the coming months. In the midst of the rebuilding, Rachel Valen, now a war hero and strategist, worked tirelessly alongside Earth's top engineers to develop a new weapon, a device capable of striking at the heart of the Empire's command network. The idea was audacious. If they could disrupt the Empire's central leadership, cripple its coordination and ability to respond, Earth might be able to shift the balance of power. The Empire relies on its hierarchy, Rachel explained to Cheng. Without the central command, they'll falter. If we can hit their heart, their fleets will be scattered, their resources wasted. The Empire doesn't operate without a leader. They'll panic. Cheng, ever the realist, nodded. It was a dangerous plan, but it was their best shot. They would need to go straight to the heart of the Empire, the Emperor's flagship, the very symbol of imperial control. But getting close to such a powerful target would be suicide unless they could find a way to infiltrate the Empire's heavily guarded space. With time running short, Earth's best pilots, including Rachel herself, began their training for what was being called the Reckoning Strike. The mission was to infiltrate the heart of the Empire's fleet, reach the Emperor's flagship, and deploy a device that could sever the communications and command networks controlling the Empire's entire military. But the Empire was already adapting. As Earth's forces worked tirelessly to prepare for their next assault, the Empire's response was swift and brutal. They had learned from their losses, and now they began a counter-offensive that was designed to wipe out the human resistance. Their ships, retooled and reinforced, emerged from hyperspace with the might of an army that had been preparing for this very moment. The Empire was coming back not to reclaim their position, but to ensure that Earth would never dare to rise again. The battlefronts across the solar system were about to ignite once more. Earth had no choice but to face the full wrath of the Empire. As the countdown to the Reckoning Strike continued, General Cheng and Rachel Valen knew that they had only one chance. There was no room for failure. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the very future of humanity. The galaxy's mightiest empire had underestimated Earth once before. Now, as they returned with vengeance, the question was clear. Would the humans be able to strike the final blow, or would they be wiped from the stars forever? The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. The silence before the storm was palpable. Earth's resistance forces, now strengthened by months of preparation and ingenuity, gathered on the edge of a precipice. The Empire's counter-offensive had begun in full force, an overwhelming wave of destruction that sought to crush the fragile hope humanity had managed to build. But General Cheng and Rachel Valen, alongside their allies, were not ready to surrender. They had a plan, a final strike that could alter the course of the war. This was their last chance to prove that humanity's spirit could never be broken. The Reckoning Strike, as it had come to be known, was the culmination of everything Earth had learned since the war began. It wasn't just a military operation. It was humanity's boldest move yet, a calculated risk that involved infiltrating the heart of the Empire's fleet. Their target, the Emperor's flagship, the symbol of imperial command. If they could sever the Empire's communication and leadership, they could fracture its military might and bring down the Empire from within. As Earth's fleet assembled near the outer rim of the solar system, General Cheng stood before the commanders, her face unwavering. The war had taken its toll on every soul on Earth, but this final stand would determine the fate of their planet. "Listen to me," she said, addressing the officers and pilots who had gathered in the command center. "This mission will cost us. There will be no glory here, only the survival of our species. We cannot fail. Every sacrifice, every life lost, will mean something. It will mean we will stand forever, not as a conquered people, but as a force that changed the galaxy. Do it for Earth. Do it for humanity." With a shared resolute nod, her commanders moved to prepare their forces. The fleet of ships, human-made, patched together with salvaged imperial technology, was ready. Earth's new weapons, the ones developed from the wreckage of Empire ships, were fully charged. The odds were still staggering, but humanity had learned to turn the impossible into something they could conquer. The battle began with a deafening roar. The Imperial fleet, already engaged in a sweeping assault on Earth's defenses, was suddenly thrust into chaos as Earth's fleet launched a full-scale assault on the Emperor's flagship. It was a gamble. If they could get close enough, deploy the EMP device, and cripple the Empire's command structure, they might just win. Rachel Valen, leading the first wave of pilots, gripped the controls of her craft, her mind focused entirely on the mission. The enemy fleet loomed before her, massive, relentless, and full of death. But she had seen this before. She had seen humanity stand against impossible odds and win. They would do it again. With her heart pounding, Rachel led her squadron through a deadly gauntlet of fire, weaving between enemy ships as they launched their assault. The human-made ships were faster, more agile than anything the Empire had anticipated, but even their best tactics were not enough to avoid the overwhelming firepower of the Empire. Earth's fleet took heavy losses as they pushed forward, their ships exploding in bursts of light. But they kept coming. They fought with the fury of a species that refused to bow. General Cheng, coordinating from Earth's command center, watched the battle unfold. The tide was turning, but it was far from over. The reckoning strike had been launched. Now it was all about the final push, the infiltration of the Emperor's flagship. The device had to be placed. If it wasn't, the war would be lost. Rachel's squadron reached the Emperor's ship. The last line of defense was breached, and the EMP device was deployed. It was a tense moment. Everything hinged on that small, unassuming device. Would it work? Would it disable the heart of the Empire's operation? A moment later, the silence of space shattered as the Emperor's flagship flickered and then collapsed into chaos. The command systems, once flawless, were shattered. The Empire's fleet was thrown into disarray as communications faltered and leadership vanished. It was a devastating blow, and the Empire's once unstoppable force faltered. But the victory was not without its cost. Earth's fleet was nearly destroyed, and many brave souls were lost in the final assault. Yet, as the last imperial ships retreated into the void, Earth's victory was undeniable. The Empire's grip on the galaxy had been loosened, its command structure shattered. The people of Earth had fought for their survival, and they had won. In the aftermath, as the last remnants of the Empire retreated, Earth stood victorious. The Galactic Empire, once a monolithic force that spanned the galaxy, had been dealt a blow it would never recover from. Humanity, small and seemingly insignificant, had shown that no force, no empire, no power in the universe could ever extinguish the will to survive. The war was over, but humanity's place in the galaxy had forever changed. Earth was no longer a backwater planet to be ignored. It had become a symbol, a beacon of defiance and strength. The Empire had learned a harsh lesson. Never underestimate the heart of humanity. And as Earth's people looked toward the stars, they knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter for their world, a chapter they would write on their own teams.